Hello and welcome back to Real People, Real Business, the podcast. My name is Izu Nwachukwu and I'm the host for the podcast. On today's episode, we've got an expert who's going to give us his insights into the ad tech industry and what we should be knowing about digital marketing. On today's episode, I have an amazing young man, Samson Ogbu. Samson is the founder of Fitch Technologies, which is a software and ad tech agency. His expertise in digital transformation, business automation, and digital marketing, and he's worked in the EMEA region as well as Lebanon and Nigeria. Samson, welcome to Real People, Real Business.
Thank you very, very much, Izu, for having me. Great pleasure to be here today. Looking forward to an exciting conversation with you today.
Fantastic. Samson, listen, I know you're an expert when it comes to ad tech and digital transformation. And, we're going to get into what businesses, especially SMBs and entrepreneurs, should know about the ad tech industry, how to market their business and digital automation. But before we get into that, I want to take it a step back. I want to understand, what first sparked your journey into entrepreneurship. And what was that journey like for you? Because I know you didn't just start immediately. You started in a career path and then you moved into entrepreneurship.
Yes. For as long as I can remember, I've always loved building things. I always liken entrepreneurship to farming.
Okay.
Right? You plant a seed, you water and nurture it, and then it sprouts into a plant. And then you keep nurturing and watering, and it grows into a tree and blossoms.
Yeah.
So for me, entrepreneurship is about finding a problem that you can solve and create value doing, and then obviously making a profit out of it, making a business out of it. So the first thing I did out of uni was actually to set up a company.
Okay.
Now, looking back now, I actually laugh at some of the things I did because I had very little experience, but I was driven by a passion to take what I perceived was a big problem and solve it for the market, inspired by one of our professors in uni. So obviously, I ran that company for about 2 years with some small successes, but it taught me one hard lesson. I needed to learn. There were so many things I didn't know about business, and that prompted me to go get a business education.
Right, okay.
So I took an MBA, and post-MBA, I had a few corporate offers. And obviously, coming off an MBA with a student debt, I kind of felt, okay, maybe I can work for a bit and then go back to pursue my entrepreneurial passions.
Yeah.
And then it took longer than I expected. I got comfortable with the corporate life and then wasn't quite confident that I was ready to go back out there. But eventually, I had to scratch that itch again, right? 6 years ago, we set out much more ready, much more experienced, and knowing what we wanted to solve for the market. So that's how I went back into the digital space, and that's how Fitch Technologies came about.
Fantastic. It's a similar story to mine. Out of uni, starting a company and not knowing anything about business. I'm realizing that my degree in business IT didn't even teach me how to apply for a business license. So, that goes to show you what we're taught in university. But, you mentioned something here. You said you learned a hard lesson, starting out your business. And that's kind of shaped the way you do business. So those two things I wanted to touch on. What was this lesson that you learned? And, with Fitch Technologies, which is your company now, what is it that you're solving for? You mentioned you're solving for something. So what are you solving for and what did you learn?
Good question. So I'll start with the second. For us, we set up Fitch Technologies with a simple mission. We want to help businesses scale with technology.
Okay.
So the things we do, I would split into two areas. Technology for solving for efficiency, so helping businesses operate better, operate more efficiently, and then technology for helping businesses scale. These are the two things we focus on. When I set up my first company a long time ago, I very quickly realized that you might be good at solving a problem. You might have a market to solve for. You might have customers, but business finance is at the core of business. If you don't have the skills to manage cash flow, you might actually have a thriving business and still go out of business. So I think that was a critical lesson for me at the time. And when we set up to establish Fitch Technologies, it was very important for us to make sure that we had someone with the right skills in finance from the start. If you run a business, if you're scaling a business, financial history is very important. Being able to make payroll is very important. Even if your business grows to the point where you want to get acquired, they want to see your financial history.
Big time.
Right? So that's, for me, a critical lesson I learned. Secondly, if you're in business, especially in the tech space, you must stay learning. You must stay hungry to learn. Information is obsolete quicker than you can imagine. So if you're able to develop deep expertise in any chosen niche, you create value for the market, you create value for your customers, and that's what keeps you in business. So I think these are some of the critical lessons that has helped us set up and thrive today.
Okay, that's amazing. Like you said, technology is always changing, and it's I'm still always surprised at how quickly, being in the technology space myself, how quickly it's constantly changing. Sometimes I think it's moving too quickly.
Way too fast.
Way too fast. It needs, before you even figure out what we're doing here, there's a new thing that's come up that we need to catch on to. And I'm sure we'll talk a little bit more about that and that's AI. But before we go into that, let's talk about some of the trends that you see in the digital sphere. You've kind of worked with a lot of clients and brands for digital transformation. What major shifts are you seeing now around tech and in the fintech landscape? What should we know about as small businesses? What kind of technology should we be thinking about?
So over the past decade plus, we've ridden several technology waves. We had the blockchain wave, which is still here today. We had the crypto wave, goes in cycles up and down. We even had the NFT craze, which everyone jumped on board, creating digital files and selling them for multiples, right? And all of these waves, they had valid use cases in business and in life. But I had never seen before any trend like what we're seeing today with AI.
Okay.
For the first time, we have the potential to amplify our impact in any industry, in every sphere of life with AI technologies. And it is not an overstatement.
Okay.
Recently, last year, we participated in an AI challenge from Meta, which we won by...
And this was in conjunction with the Dubai government, was
yes,
it? Okay.
Dubai Future Foundation, in partnership with Meta and Startup Mina, created this challenge to try and apply AI to real business use cases. So we built a solution, an AI predictive demand forecasting tool for Charles Hoop Group, and we won the challenge with this tool. This tool helps to solve the problem of overstocking and stockouts. Just to give you context of the scale of the problem, in 2023 alone, LVMH, the luxury brand, reported $3.5 billion in unsold inventory. Imagine they had a tool to predict that. That's what we're solving for.
Okay.
And it's an open secret in the industry that oftentimes brands actually destroy products to protect brand value, right? So we're not just talking about the commercial aspects and helping them to optimize inventory. There's a huge sustainability angle as well. There's a lot of resource that goes into production. It hits the shelf, it gets unsold, and brands destroy these products to protect brand value. So it's heartbreaking to know that that is the norm today, even as we speak. So, and that is possible with AI. We're able to build a tool that can create optimal demand forecasts that reflect real demand values and help brands solve the problem of overstocking and stockouts, which means that they can sell more to the right customers. So I feel like we've seen trends, but for the first time, we have a trend that impacts lives in so many ways, and regardless of your industry or business, you can apply these tools to optimize your impact and delivery.
So that goes to my next question. So big companies like Shahoop Group and LVMH, like you mentioned, they can invest a lot to build all these AI agents that are customized to help their businesses be more efficient and probably save costs. For entrepreneurs, for small businesses, there's a lot of buzz, there's a lot of hype around AI. Yes, there are some agents like ChatGPT, generative AI, DeepSeek from China that kind of come popping their heads up. But for the small business person, what AI tool should they be focusing on? There's so many coming out now, from those that will make calls, sales calls for you, to those that will do your content creation. So as a small business person, this can be overwhelming, right? So from your expertise working with brands, how does a business owner or business leader kind of decide what tool, where should they be focusing their efforts when it comes to AI?
Great question. So you touch upon an important point there. Big corporations can afford to invest in technology to improve efficiency across the business, right? And today, technology is an enabler and an equalizer.
Okay.
For the first time, regardless of the size of your business, you can readily access tools to improve whether it's your sales process, your operations process, right? Because a lot of these tools are open source. And even if you don't have the technical skills, you can always work with agencies. And because they're open source, the cost of adopting and implementing these technologies are significantly less than they've ever been. Now, as a business, yes, it is very overwhelming. Even for me in the technology space, every time I open LinkedIn or go on other communities on Twitter, X today, I get overwhelmed with the pace of innovation, new products, new use cases every day. So I get that it is overwhelming. I always say to business owners, right, to find the best use case or the best ways to apply technology to your business, take some time to x-ray your business.
Okay.
Where does your time or your team's time go to? What are the most resource-intensive elements of your business? So these are the areas of opportunity to improve efficiency or improve the way you do your business. So that's always the starting point I would recommend.
Okay.
X-ray your business, find out what takes up your time every day, every week, every month, similarly for your team. And then with a little research, you can very quickly realize that there are tools you can use in these areas to optimize how you deliver your product or how you sell to your customers. And this goes straight to your bottom line, because if you're able to use your resources more efficiently, that means you can sell more competitively, so indirectly acquiring more customers. That means you can deliver faster, customer satisfaction. Okay. So these are real utilities that can have a positive impact on your business. So for me, that's the one thing I always tell business owners. What do you spend your time on? Look at your P&L. What are your biggest cost elements? Let's start with those. Are there tools we can apply on those to do things at a lower cost or do them better, faster? That's a good starting point.
Yeah, I think I would definitely agree with that. I think also alongside, where you can reduce costs and improve efficiency, business efficiency, I'll be saying where are the pain points for your business, right?
Absolutely.
Where are the most challenging issues that you have in your business. So that is another area where you may want to investigate and see whether AI can actually help remove that pain. So yes, I think it's overwhelming, but, as a business leader, you're going to have to do some homework on understand, how you can apply it. And we were speaking earlier, and this is another area that for AI, I'm still on the fence with how quickly it's moving and stuff like that. Because for me, when it comes to AI, I love technology. I think we should use it, but I think we should always, first and foremost, look at how we use it for good and not just for corporate revenue. So I was going to say something else.
Not just the money angle.
Not just the money
beyond
angle.
That.
Yeah, beyond that. Like, how do we make a positive impact in the world? Because, across the board. And then I think that's where government and policymakers and businesses should focus their effort. And the reason I'm saying this is because, and I want to take your view on this, is because AI is predicted in the next 5 years to lose 95 million jobs. So 95 million people are going to be out of the job for AI because it's going to replace their jobs, or they don't have the skill level to continue in those roles. Now, just to sort of put that into context, the last global crisis we had, which is I think around 2008, 2009, was which started in America with the financial industry, and then impacted the housing industry, mortgages, loans, all that sort of stuff. 35 million people lost their job. That was a global economic crisis. 35 million people. We are now saying that AI is going to displace 3 times that number. So we're going to have potentially 3 times a global crisis in 5 to 6 years. But I don't see any contingency plans from any government. I don't see any leadership team saying this is how we're going to push for upskilling people. Maybe I'm missing it, but I don't see. I see the business preparing to move into the AI era, but I don't see them trying to take as many people with them. So what are your thoughts on this? Should businesses be looking at a way to sort of bring that number down from 95 million to something that, because it's going to have a knock-on impact. These are people without jobs, who have mortgages to pay, who have children to feed, to send to school, and they're just going to go into the job market. And, I read a post the other day from a business leader in a global company who was just saying to his own employees, if you don't go and train for AI, be prepared to lose your job. And my first thing was, well, why aren't you investing in your own people? Why aren't you upskilling them? Why aren't you giving them AI training? And, we spoke about this earlier, and you said your own team, you invest in them to bring them up to skill, right? To make sure that they can move into the next era with those skill sets. So why is it that, businesses like this they're quick to think about the financial benefits, but not the human capital, right? And nobody is checking this as far as I can see. So what are your thoughts on this?
The reality is that AI is already disrupting every sector you can think of, right? And corporates being what corporates are, would always focus on the numbers. But if you dig a little deeper than that, you would realize that investing in upskilling your people, for example, actually hits your numbers. I told you earlier that as an organization, we all have learning goals, and we actually spend time during working hours to learn. We don't do it just because we want to be nice and we want to be good to the employees, but because actually it translates to value for the business. If myself and my team members are better skilled at applying technology to solve business problems, we satisfy customers, we deliver better value to customers, and that helps us grow as a business. Right. So similarly, in every industry, I think it's an imperative to upskill people. The truth is, you mentioned almost 100 million jobs might be displaced, and it is happening already, but the nature of work will always evolve. In the Industrial Revolution, we had millions and millions of people working manual labor in factories. Today, we don't have those. Those factories run more efficiently. Those skills evolved. So people are doing other type of jobs than what they did 100 years ago. People used to be horse cart riders because that was the main means of public transport. Some of those people, generations later, are taxi drivers. They work in other high-tech space. So similarly, I believe that the nature of work will evolve. If you look at the hierarchy of human needs, as societies begin to evolve, the needs evolve. I'll give you a simple example. Today, if for any reason you're somewhere where you don't have data on your phone, you feel like a fundamental right is taken away from you. Right?
I feel like a little bit of freedom from my addiction to the mobile phone.
That's also true. So that's the extent to which needs evolve. So being aware that what you do today is not immune to disruption is very, very important on a personal level beyond business. So I always tell people, learn. It doesn't have to be for work. Learn for you. What are you passionate about? What would you do if you didn't have to work for money? Learn in that space. Because technology will affect everything, but if you're upskilling in the right spaces, the nature of work will evolve. The value you create will evolve. Maybe today you're a content writer. That's the value you create. If tomorrow AI takes that content writing role, what else can you do?
Listen, I totally agree with you. And, in my book, Real People, 9 to Thrive, Side Hustles to Success, it is encouraging people to find other means to sort of upskill yourself, find fulfillment, rather than just relying on your 9 to 5 job. I totally agree. And I think the responsibility is on you as an individual.
Absolutely.
To better yourself, to grow, right? However, I think my argument here is that the corporate world, the tech world is really pushing this, right? It's really pushing this. So they are if you like, the butterfly effect. I actually the elephant in the room driving it. But the splash effect of it, the knock-on effect of it, is not something they're taking responsibility for. So technology is going to evolve, right? You mentioned the horse and cart to the taxi driver, but in the time span which that evolved, people were able to, it was a generation later, like, the kids of today with their mobile phones and tech, and 20 years ago is very different. But we're talking a span of 5 years, right?
Even shorter with the pace of evolution in technology now.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, all right, there are people who go to university for 4 years and come out and don't have a job. So
don't even get me started on spending 4 years in uni. Don't get me started on that.
100%. So for me, it's kind of like at this pace, right, where we have this technology coming in, it's going to have an impact on a lot of people's jobs. Yes, you as an individual take some responsibility, but also those who are pushing this technology this quickly, which is going to have an impact. I feel that they need to be taking some responsibility of how they're going to impact the world. 95 million people out of a job is no joke. And so I think governments and companies should also be at the helm of saying, how do we balance this out, right? So that's kind of where I'm coming from. Now, on the other side, you're right, 100%, that the technology, AI, I actually feel that some of the least technology able people in the world will benefit from AI because
Absolutely.
It starts to democratize stuff, right?
Yeah.
If you didn't know how to, if you weren't, like you mentioned, content writer, if you didn't know how to be a content writer, you could actually use AI to start becoming.
You have a base to start from.
You have a base to start from. It can start training you in other things. It can start helping you and stuff like that. So you can actually utilize it to start creating either side hustles or create even a business from it. There are people who are sitting down and having AI write their business plan and they're able to execute it. So I'm in two minds about it, but here's my position. I feel, yes, here's an individual, this is where the world is going, learn from it, upskill yourself. But I feel those corporations and governments who are pushing this, knowing full well what the knock-on effect is, should also take some responsibility of how they're going to impact the whole world.
Absolutely. I think, I definitely agree with you. We have a shared humanity, right? So as individuals, we have a responsibility to ourselves to proactively seek how to better ourselves. At the same time, I think we're beginning to see now across different countries at different levels, at different pace, government proactively taking action. So a lot of countries have come out with an AI strategy, whether it's to apply it to key sectors like agriculture, healthcare, or even to apply it to learning processes. Like recently in the UAE, they've now launched an initiative to have AI taught in schools, right? So at different levels, different governments are beginning to recognize that, okay, yes, individual action is good, but they, as an economy, they also have to take action to ensure that they protect the future for the population. So I think as a collective, both sides would have to work together one step at a time to make sure that, yes, we create value, but at the same time, we carry everybody along.
Okay, fantastic. I digress. Okay, so let's bring it back to Fitch Technologies. So, can you tell us a little bit more about Fitch Technologies and how your business can support SMEs and entrepreneurs? Maybe even give us a case study of a client that you've worked with and you've helped them scale their business, you've helped them make more money, you've helped them become more successful in their field. It'll be good for our listeners to understand how this technology can help.
Absolutely. So our mission, like I described earlier, is to help businesses scale efficiently and operate more efficiently and scale with technology, right? Yeah. And a few years ago, we would do that by building custom workflows, writing code, whether it's to customize a CRM or even run digital campaigns to help them grow. And then the AI wave came about and we realized that we're actually able to do that even much better, right? We're able to apply technology in different spaces across businesses, typically using a combination of AI and automation. Okay. We're able to reduce labor-intensive tasks with automation and amplify the accuracy and reach of campaigns. I'll give you a good example. One of the clinics we work with here in Dubai, they used to have about 4 plus team members that were tasked every day with actually manually taking customer appointments, checking doctor availability, booking those appointments, and then a day before the appointment, calling back those customers to reconfirm that yes, they are still going to show up for the appointment. And then based on the response, they would communicate or update the calendar of the doctor. So very, very labor intensive, given that this clinic had over 200 appointments per day, right? But today, just with a combination of AI and automation, we're able to reach out to the customers to ask them, remind them of the appointment, and prompt them to answer yes to confirm or no to cancel. And based on their response, we're able to automatically update the calendar of the doctor. So with just a few automation workflows and a bit of AI, we're able to completely transform that process, offer a better experience to the customer and for the staff of the clinic as well. So they're actually spending their time in more valuable areas of the business instead of spending time just manually calling one party, calling the other. So that's just one example of how, with a combination of AI and automation, we can improve efficiency, and this goes direct to the bottom line of the businesses.
Fantastic. So you're able to kind of make that process a lot more simpler, automated, so these nurses can spend their time actually maybe looking more after the clients and maybe client details and stuff, as opposed to spending time calling 200 clients to confirm if they're going to come in. So this is fantastic, and that's why technology is here, right? That's what it does. It just makes us supposed to make our lives easier, but not all technology is good, if you ask me. Okay, fantastic. So listen, my next question is kind of, you and I are from Nigeria, right? We're both Igbo brothers. And so you know my passion for Nigeria, you know my passion for Africa. So in the tech space, what do you see is the future trend in Africa and probably even the Middle East? What would you, from your expertise, I know you just came back from Côte d'Ivoire, where you were potentially working with the government there in implementing technology. So what do you see is the future trend that Africans or people in the Middle East should be looking out for when it comes to the tech space?
I'm very passionate about Africa. Obviously, it's my heritage. We're Nigerians, right? But beyond that, when you look at the numbers, it's just incredible the opportunity we have today for impact. Africa is the continent with the fastest population growth rate, and 70% of the population is below 30 years. That means a growing market. That means a rapid pace of technology adoption. These are young people, right? So it gives us opportunity to impact or improve where things are done across so many industries: healthcare, education, agriculture, and the list goes on. Today, for example, we're working on a project and tackling a problem that is very, very close to me. In Nigeria and across Africa, hundreds of thousands of lives are lost every year to counterfeit and fake drugs.
Right.
And for the first time, we have an opportunity to use AI to create a tool that can help fight this challenge.
Right.
And this is just one example. We have similar use cases in agriculture, improving crop yield. We have use cases in infrastructure. How can you plan cities better? How can cities operate more efficiently? We have more, you mentioned Ivory Coast. We're working with the Ivorian government now to implement a solution to enhance environmental sustainability and waste management. So across sectors, there are huge opportunities to operate better at lower cost. Some of this project just a few short years ago would take hundreds of millions of dollars to implement. But today, with access to open source technologies, you can actually build use cases, implement them a lot more efficiently and with significantly lower budget compared to what we would have done in the past. So I think for me, I feel so excited and passionate when I talk about that, because regardless of your industry, you have the opportunity today to do things better, and that the market is growing and big to accommodate these new solutions.
Fantastic. I'm glad that you're making this impact on the continent, and let me know how I can help. Absolutely. Or where I can help. Okay, so we're coming towards the end of this section, and the next part is the section we call Share Your Wisdom. All right. So I have 3 questions for you, and the first one is, what's the most surprising fact that you've learned yourself from your journey, your entrepreneurial journey? Second is, what do you consider to be success? And the third is, what advice would you give others who have similar work challenges to yourself?
The first one, they say patience is a virtue, right? I didn't know I had the capacity to be patient until I chose to walk down the entrepreneurial path. Obviously, as an entrepreneur, you have a vision of what you want to build and the timeline in which you want to build it. But the reality is that once you hit the market, reality hits you. Like in boxing, Mike Tyson once famously said that you have a plan until you get knocked in the face with a punch.
Yeah.
And then
the
you
plan
start.
disappears, yeah.
Yeah, so I've learned over time how to stay patient and keep doing the good work, knowing that the impact is incremental and exponential. So it's not just about quick gratification, but staying the course with grit until you achieve your ideal.
So to that point, patience and consistency.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very important.
I think something that every entrepreneur needs.
Absolutely.
That and adaptability.
Absolutely.
Okay, cool.
To the second question, or let me take the third one and I'll come to the second.
Cool.
I think people often glamorize entrepreneurship, right? It can be a lonely journey, right? So when you set out on that path, it's important to surround yourself with a support system, whether it's your peers in business or mentor. It's good to have a way to bounce off ideas, to seek advice, to seek support, because the buck stops with you. If you're in corporate, you have your finance, your marketing, your HR that provides support, but often as an entrepreneur, all the problems gravitate to your desk. You have to solve them. So having a support system to learn, to grow is really, really important. And secondly,
before you answer that question, because this is a really important one, I also highlight this in my book. To your, a lot of people who start an entrepreneurship journey don't necessarily think this is important. And secondly, when they do, they're not sure how to find that support system, that support group. So would you mind just delving in a little bit in terms of sort of maybe educating people to say, okay, this is how you should find a support group? Because I think it's really, really important. A lot of businesses die because the person's soul dies. Right? They get lonely, it's stressful, and they're like, this is not enough for me anymore. So how do entrepreneurs starting out in business find a support system?
Very good question. I'm glad you brought that up. I think, regardless of the industry you're in, today, thanks to social media, we have different type of online communities. So it's always good to do a bit of research, even talk to the friends around you, regardless of the industry. Find online communities for your space. Some are good, some are bad. So obviously, as you begin to interact and engage in different groups, you begin to learn which ones fit the kind of support you need and participate. Oftentimes, these communities go beyond online to offline, so they're in-person events. So make out time, put time in your calendar to go out there and talk to real people, engage with real people in your space. Talk to peers from your industry, because oftentimes our biggest network is the industry we're coming from, right? So that's a good base to start as well. Find out people in that space that can be advisors, mentors, and that's also a good way to have that support system. So I think a combination of reaching out to the network you already have from your industry and spending time to understand what kind of communities exist for your space or your industry and participating is really, really good. And I often tell people, don't keep it real. Don't go being the guy that is throwing business cards at everyone. Generally go there with an open mind to share your knowledge and expertise and be open to receive. Right? That's how you build real connections. Create value, and then value comes back to you.
True.
So I think that's really crucial.
Okay, fantastic. And final question, what do you consider to be success?
That has evolved over the years, but today I think success to me means freedom to decide how and what I spend my time on. I wake up every day choosing the kind of problems I want to solve in the business, choosing when I want to spend time with my family, when I want to spend time with my friends. So I think for me, freedom is having that control to decide how and where I spend my time. And as I evolve in my entrepreneurial journey, I'm finding that slowly I'm coming closer to that ideal where I have more and more control over where I spend my time, where I make the most impact, and how I relax. So I think for me, that's the greatest measure of freedom, of success. Having that freedom to own my time.
100%. No, I totally agree. But I'm going to ask a follow-up question on this. So what did it evolve from? What did you start with?
Man, being an Igbo man, if your listeners don't know the relationship between Igbo men and money, go look it up, right? So I think from an early age, I've always associated success with financial, how much you have in the bank and all of that, which is important because where we come from, we don't have social security, so you always have to have enough resources to cater for yourself and your family, right? So that's important. But obviously, as you begin to hit some of those milestones, your needs evolve, and you begin, and even as you get older, you begin to have a much more realistic view of what real success is. Another example, health. When you're young, you often take your health for granted. As you start getting older, you realize how without health, nothing else matters.
They say you don't have a problem until you have a health problem.
Exactly. So I think, in the past, a lot of my ideals were around financial means and all of that, but over time, it's evolving. And for me, what matters more now is, it's 24 hours you have in a day. It's your biggest currency, and it's limited. So how much of it do you have control over? And that for me is the definition of success.
Fantastic. Samson, thank you so much for coming on to the podcast, and I'm sure that listeners will gain a lot of value and insight from the knowledge and expertise you shared today. And if anyone's watching and you want to reach out and speak to Samson about digital technology, ad tech, and how that can help your business, please do reach out on the podcast, and we'll be sure to connect you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. It's been very refreshing and sitting down and having this conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%, man. Thank you.
Awesome.